Is anybody else confused on like how they should eat? I think it's very reasonable that you would be confused. There's so much conflicting information out there where one side of the spectrum says, hey, you need to be a carnivore, only eat meat. Plants have folates in them, plants are killing you, don't eat plants. Then you have the opposite side of that. Someone's a vegetarian, they say, you know, plants are the answer, only eat plants. Animal sources are not good for you, they're causing problems, they're linked to cancer. Then you have like the keto craze, right? Where that's kind of based around eating moderate amounts of protein, but really kind of upping your fat intake, eating little to no carbohydrates, and trying to get yourself into something called ketosis. Then on the flip side of that spectrum, you kind of have a classic bodybuilding style diet where you really hardly have any fat, you know, low to no fat. You eat quite a bit of carbohydrates and you keep your protein moderate to high. So how is one to make sense of that? That's like so much conflicting information. And I think if you go on social media or even if you listen to the news and stuff, it's like one sort of camp is promoting or standing behind one style of eating and saying this is the way, and then another one is contradicting it, saying no, don't do that, do this is the way. I think the answer might lie somewhere in the middle. Again, this is just my beliefs. This is my N of one experience. I'm not saying that I'm right on this, but this is how I view nutrition, and this is how I try to help my friends and family and clients and myself, more importantly. So let's kind of try to take a approach where we say, all right, what are maybe some agreed upon principles that we could move forward with from all these styles of eating, that regardless of, you know, what camp you want to belong to or what style of eating you want to adopt, what are some kind of baseline principles or fundamental practices that maybe could be agreed upon by everyone? And I would say that principle number one would be to consume adequate amounts of protein. So if you didn't see this in my first episode, I talk quite a bit about the power of protein. Maybe go back and check that out. But it's pretty well supported that you should try to consume 0.7 grams to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So eat adequate amounts of protein. That's principle number one. Principle number two for me, okay, is try to remove or eliminate the majority of processed foods from your diet. Now, I would be a hypocrite if I told you that I didn't consume processed foods, because I do. However, I try to eat most of my, calories from good whole foods. So that brings me to principle number three, is trying to consume the majority of your daily calories from good, natural, whole foods. If you can't sort of pick it, pluck it, hunt it, gather it, maybe don't consider eating it. So adequate amounts of protein, principle number one. Principle number two is try to remove the majority of processed foods from your diet. And principle number three is try to eat a whole foods based approach. Okay, now moving forward, this is where we kind of start to get some actual practical application and break things down. I take nutrition and I break it into three columns, okay? You have a protein column, you have a carbohydrates column, and then you have a fats column. So under the way I like to do things and try to help my friends and family and clients, we're gonna keep our protein column high, okay? Because we wanna continue to build lean muscle tissue. In my opinion, lean muscle tissue is one of the most important tissues that you can put on your frame, because the more muscle you have on your frame, the more calories you burn at rest. So we should all be trying to build muscle. So if we're trying to keep our protein high and we kind of just do that, we can almost move that column out to the side. Now you're left with two columns, fats and carbohydrates. Those are your energy sources, okay? Protein is more for building and maintaining lean muscle mass, and then your energy sources come from either fats or carbohydrates. And this is where the diet can become pretty dynamic and change from individual to individual. Now, there's going to be some people that also do better on a higher fat or a higher carbohydrate diet. Some people tolerate it better than others. So this is where you kind of do the experimenting and figure out, okay, do I like to kind of have a moderate amount of both fat and carbohydrates, so both my fat and carbohydrate column are relatively equal? Or do I enjoy carbohydrates more? Do I want to have more rice, more potatoes, more fruits, more vegetables? If you do, okay, which is great, your carbohydrate column, okay, is going to go up, right? But as a result of that, the way I try to teach things is that if we take our carbohydrate column and bring it up, as a result of that, with some checks and balances, we're going to have to lower our fat column a little bit. Or vice versa. Say I want to take and eat more fats, okay? I'm in an egg kick where I'm eating a ton of eggs. Maybe I'm eating some coconut, okay, some olives, olive oil, nuts. All right, I'm just getting, fattier cuts of meat, ribeyes, which are delicious, chicken thighs. If my fat, okay, content on the day is going up, if I don't want to, put on excess body fat, I'm going to need to then lower, okay, my carbohydrate column. So the way I try to help people understand nutrition is that it's so flexible and it's totally individual based in terms of how do you want to eat, what works good for you. So for example, telling you my experiences right now as we move into the warmer months, fruit becomes more abundant, okay? And because it is becoming more abundant and fruit is becoming more seasonal, I'm eating way more fruit. I always try to eat a good amount of fruit, but I'm eating way more fruit right now. Okay, tons of apples every day, oranges, bananas, kiwis, avocados, berries. So my carbohydrates are going up. I usually have some type of potato or rice with my dinner. So as my carbohydrates go up, if I want to maintain the lean physique that I've created, I'm going to have to modify and kind of sort of bring my fat column down a little bit if I'm shooting my carbohydrate column way up. Now, I'm still eating fat because you need fat, right? Essential fatty acids and essential amino acids. You need fat and you need protein. So don't ever, in my opinion, cut your fat totally out, because you're not going to like the way that makes you feel. It's going to affect your sleep. Your hormones are going to be kind of out of whack. So you always need to have some fat in the diet. But as I, again, take my carbohydrate content on the day and go way up with it, I'm going to bring my fat column down. So I think if maybe you view your nutrition in these three columns, but really you can even simplify it and make it two, because right, we're going to always try to keep our protein high. And because we're always going to keep our protein high and we start to sort of do the habits that help us get there, we can kind of move that column off to the side and say, all right, cool, I only have to focus on my carbs and my fat, and I get to determine which one do I like more. Do I like more carbohydrates? Do I like more fat? Is it a kind of an equal balance? So I hope this kind of helps you in your exploration of nutrition and playing around with it a little bit to say, like, this is, again, my opinion, but carbs don't make you fat, okay? They just matter. They have a caloric value. I understand that when you eat carbohydrates, right, glucose goes into your system and insulin has to be produced, and we have to clear that insulin out, and then that either goes into a fat cell or a muscle cell. But still, carbohydrates are awesome. I think they're very recovery based and can help you fuel your workouts. So I like to eat a bunch of them. They make me feel good. So trying to kind of give you the cliff notes and the quick shot of a talk that I just went through is 3 columns: protein, fats, carbohydrates. Protein column is always going to remain high. You now have the ability to toggle and play with your carbohydrate and your fat column. If one goes up, the other one needs to come down.